Good morning. A couple of things this morning. First, very quickly, we are having the seminar on MAID this afternoon at 1 o'clock, so you have time to go and grab some lunch and then come back. It will be here in the sanctuary. And second of all, Rob, thank you so much for looking after things last week. I'm very grateful. Always nice to slip away and know things are in good hands when you're gone. In trying to describe God's presence in the Gospels, Jesus often used the term kingdom of God. He never lived like a prince. This is Reign of Christ Sunday, yet Jesus eschewed the notion of royalty. Being ambivalent or even antagonistic to royalty is a thread throughout the scriptures. And we're going to talk about that today, and we will even tweak the nose of the notion of the monarchy. Jesus eschewed the notion of royalty. That is why I like Letty Russell's adaptation of what was often referred to as the kingdom of heaven as the household of freedom. When you came in the door this morning, there was not an armed guard. You did not pass through an arch. You were not greeted by courtiers who were checking to see whether or not you were allowed to come in. We don't need reminders that we are in the capital P presence. Jesus said when 2 or 3 were gathered together in his name, he's there. So welcome. Welcome. Welcome to a place where the people who gather are simply those who celebrate being part of a household of freedom. You are free to come just as you are. Free to be who you are or discover who you are. You are living like royalty or a pauper. Living as someone who brings healing to others or needs the healing of acceptance. Welcome no matter how you see yourself, your gender and or your sexuality, your background, your struggles to be accepted because somehow you know you're different. None of it matters and all of it matters. We are here together to find acceptance and learn what it means to be a community of faith, a household of freedom. And so we are learning with you. So welcome. Thanks for coming today to be with us. While I was in Thailand, I asked about their indigenous history. You knew I would. And as with every other part of the world, there is a deep and vast indigenous history. And in Thailand, it is largely lost. Successive empires and wars eradicated it. Here in Canada, we attempted eradication, and thanks be, we failed. But in the attempt, we inflicted horrible harm. On this Sunday, we look back on what we have done for the sake of reconciliation, and we pause to consider what more we will do. How we will honor the stories of the Wendat, Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and the Mississauga of the New Credit who once cared for this land and the others throughout our country who were displaced by our ancestors. On this Sunday, we will look back and try to decide how we will hear the truth and seek reconciliation. And so we offer ourselves this day. Our call and response today is taken from 1 Samuel chapter 8, and I would ask you to respond with the words that are in bold and italicized. The elders of Israel gathered together and came to the prophet Samuel at Ramah, and they said to him, "You are old, and your sons are useless as prophets. Appoint a king to lead us, such as all the other nations have." Samuel, as God's spokesperson, was displeased. He prayed to the Lord and got a surprising answer. Hoping they might see sense, Samuel asked them, hearing nothing, Samuel warned them about what would happen to their daughters. Still hearing nothing, Samuel grew more insistent and warned them about taxes. The people stood with their arms crossed, waiting for him to appoint a king for them. He got more serious. The people refused to listen to Samuel. Nope. We want a king over us, then we will be like all the other nations, with a king to lead us and to go out before us and fight our battles. Samuel listened and told God what they said. What is the moral of the story? On this Sunday, we call Reign of Christ. We acknowledge that Jesus was no earthly king, just a Jewish rabbi, whom we began to recognize as chosen of God to teach us of the graciousness of God and help us discover what we need. Our second scripture this morning is from the Gospel of John, and it takes place during the trial of Jesus before Pilate. John 18:33 through 38, and I'm reading from the New Century Version of the scriptures. Pilate went inside the palace and called Jesus to him and asked, "Are you the king of the Jews?" And Jesus said, "Is that your own question? Or did others tell you about me?" Pilate answered, "I am not one of you. It was your own people and their leading priests who handed you over to me. What have you done wrong?" And Jesus answered, "My kingdom does not belong to this world. If it belonged to this world, my servants would have fought to keep me from being given over to the Jewish leaders. But my kingdom is from another place." And Pilate said, "Oh, so you are a king." Jesus answered, "You are the one saying I am a king. This is why I was born and came into the world, to tell people the truth. And everyone who belongs to the truth listens to me." And Pilate said, "What is truth?" I have a story for you. And what you need to know is it's a bit of a challenge to hear. But if you are young at heart, you will understand it. This is the story of Rindersella. Listen carefully. Well, I assume you do that all the time, but this time you will really have to. Tunts upon a wime, in a corn fun tree, there was a huge hassle, home of a pransome hints, who was a bonely latcheler. He decided it was time he mought garried, so he invited people from Riles amound, especially the Peach Ripple, and their dutiful botters, to a bancy fess drawl. One of the invitations went to the Hig Bouse in a little, to the Hig Bouse in a tittle lown, where Rindersella lived with her micked wepstother and her two sisty uglers. Rindersella was a bavishing rooty, which made the sisty uglers and the micked wepstother, who had a face that could clock a stop, Jerry Vellis. They made Rindersella wear wirty dags, and she had to do all the wirty dirk, a hound the rouse. She had to flop the moors, dosh the wishes, solish the pilver, loo the dondry, and fiend the plier case, which got her covered in sashes and oot. That's how she knot her game. Of course, when the micked wepstother and the sisty uglers saw this invitation, they shent whopping fra goonowns. But they told Rindersella she couldn't go to the bancy fess drawl. You stay home and chew the doors, said the micked wepstother. They went boff to the all, while Rindersella, with ears in her ties, which went chunning down her reeks, tried to who the douse work. Can you turn down the gain just a little bit? Thanks. That's better. Suddenly there was a linding bash of flight, and a Gary Modfather appeared before Rindersella. Cry are you whying, Rindersella? Asked the Gary Modfather. Oh, hoo-boo! My micked wepstother and sisty uglers went to the pransome hints's bancy festrawl and made me haste home. Rindersella mailed warnfully. Well, crop's dying, said the Gary Modfather. You shall boo to the gall. She waved her wagic wand, and Rindersella's wirty dags were burned into a gootiful town. She had a tanfastic derhu, and on her feet were tainty sass glippers. The Gary Modfather led Rindersella into the garden. With another wove of her waned, she turned a pig bumpkin into a cootiful boach, and the mealed fice into 6 height horses, and 2 cansom hoachmen. There, Rindersella, she said. Now you can bow to the gall, but you must be mome before hidnight, when the well spares off. Rindersella caught into the coach, though fusely pranked the Gary Modfather, and bent to the wall. When the pransome hints rotted Spinderella, it was sov at lurst fight. They nanced the dite away, and Rindersella had hever been nappier. All so tune, the strock cluck nidmite. Rindersella, with a lanicky pook in her eyes, rurned and tan from the pransome hints. She ran out of the huge hassle, and as she reached the stottom of the beps, she slopped her dripper. The pransome hints ran after her, but he was slew toe. He spotted the glainty sass dipper on the steps, and vowed to wind the droman of his weems. The next day, he went from house to house. You can't turn that around. Asking women to sly on the tripper, but it fidn't dit any of them. The fince was getting prostrated, and the pounds-people were tharting to stink he had a fat footish. Date in the lay, he reinly feached the house where Rindersella lived. He slide the tripper on the micked wepstother, and of course, it fidn't dit. It fidn't dit on the sisty ugglers either. They all had fig beat. Then he ride Spindersella, rest in drags as usual. "Thu his hat?" he asked. "Oh, that's just Rindersella," said a sisty ugler. "She doesn't have any drancy fesses, so she didn't abend the tall." "Come here, Rindersella," ped the since, "and sly on the tripper." She did, and the pipper slitted perfectly. So the pransome hints masked her to airy him. "Of warse I kill," she replied. "They mought garried and happed lively ever after. They had cootids, a bantsome hoy, and a gritty pearl. The storl of the Maury? If you want to marry your pransome hints, be sure to slop your dripper." I take no credit for being the author. I have forgotten the code for my tablet. I woke up at 3 this morning. There we go. I think I know what my name is. Okay. I once gave my mother-in-law a bobblehead Queen Elizabeth. If you put her in the window, the bobblehead, not my mother-in-law, her head would start to bob and one hand would wave. I thought it was a joke and I wasn't sure she would appreciate it. My mother-in-law was a staunch monarchist. It got pride of place in her kitchen. She put it right in the midst of all of her African violets. I was a little surprised. I don't know if she loved the monarchy so much as she loved the Queen. Still, I would hesitate to run today's reflection by her. She'd look at the title, and if she broke her silence, it would be to say, "Now, Cam, that isn't really what you think." We would joust for a few minutes, and then I would show her the article from The Guardian earlier this month about the King and the Prince of Wales and their charitable trusts. According to an investigation, King Charles and Prince William's property empires are taking millions of pounds from cash-strapped charities and public services, including the National Health Service, state schools, and prisons. The reports claim that the duchies of Lancaster and Cornwall, which are exempt from business taxes and used to fund the royals' lifestyles and philanthropic work, are set to make at least £50 million from leasing land to public services. The two duchies hold a total of more than 5,400 leases. One 15-year deal will see the Guy's and St. Thomas's NHS Hospital Trust in London pay £11.4 million to store its fleet of electric ambulances in a warehouse owned by the Duchy of Lancaster, the monarch's 750-year-old estate. The king will also make about £28 million from wind farms because the Duchy of Lancaster retains a feudal right to charge for cables crossing the foreshore, according to the investigation. William's Duchy of Cornwall, the hereditary estate of the heir to the throne, has signed a £37 million deal to lease Dartmoor Prison for 25 years to the Ministry of Justice, which is liable for all repairs, despite paying £1.5 million a head of capacity for a gem that is empty of prisoners. It's full of radon gas. William's estate also owns Camelford House, a 1960s tower block on the banks of the Thames, which has brought in at least $22 million since 2005 from rents paid by charities. 2 cancer charities, Marie Curie and the Macmillan Trust, of which the King is a long-standing patron, have both had to recently move out to smaller premises. These 2 duchies do not even pay corporate tax. Jesus would read the article and say, "So what do you expect? Kings take what they want." This is Reign of Christ Sunday, and it purports to be about King Jesus, and he wasn't interested in the title. He told parables about kings, foolish and corrupt. The most direct thing he said about the monarchy of his day is, "Render unto Caesar the things which are Caesar, and unto God the things which are God's." But he's doing it to tweak the Pharisees. Because he asked the Pharisees for a coin when they were asking him about, where the loyalty should be. And the Pharisee reached into his pocket and pulled out a coin, and everybody sees that the Pharisee is holding an idol that he keeps in his pocket. Oops. Everywhere in Bangkok and in the surrounding region, there would be an arch at the beginning of a road or highway. It was usually decorated in gold and white, and right in the center of that arch would be an image of the king. The monarchy there is much like that in the UK. It's a symbol of stability, peace, even spirituality. The king is the titular head of the Buddhist religion in Thailand, the way the king is the head of the Anglican Church in the UK. The previous king, Rama IX, brought the nation into a new century of economic prosperity, and he gradually helped them develop into a democratic country. He is revered for his work. His successor, Rama X, is perhaps less well thought of. He behaves more like a dynastic ruler. He likes the trappings of what he does. Nobody's quite sure what he does to advance the interests of the country other than the symbolic things that he is called to do. But he's a little secretive. Actually, much of his life is kept secret. For instance, nobody knows how many wives he has. If he wants another one, he picks a woman out and she has no choice. People have lost count of how many wives he has or who they are. There are several, all married at the will of the king. Kings take what they want. So Jesus antagonizes them. Herod, Caesar, their representatives, as well as religious leaders, not directly so much as being someone who had little interest in their ways. And so this earthly teacher is brought before Pontius Pilate, the representative of the earthly ruler, the emperor, who asks him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" Well, do you ask for your own need to know or because you need to give someone else an opinion? Pilate ducks by saying this is not his concern. Your own people want you dead. Do you deserve death? But it's obvious that if Jesus was a king, he says, "My kingdom is not of this world, because if it were of this world, then my disciples would have prevented me from being arrested. They would have fought." So you are a king. Taunting? Curious? Who knows? Those are your words, not mine. If anything, Jesus is the king of truth. What is truth? Pilate thinks this an uncertain kingdom. He would have heard many claims to truth from criminals and subordinates and sycophants and religious people who wanted to convince him and everyone else that they had a corner on it and that they belonged together. Jesus, he just stood there. His was a system, a value system that he didn't need to justify. Of course they feared him. He had no regard, no fear, no concern for what occupied their daily existence. He didn't buy into the notion of privilege being a blessing. He would speak against it, but not much. He simply told stories that told his listeners that in God's eyes, their value was not determined by the people who were around them and how they dressed and how much wealth they had and how much power they could command. He wasn't about overthrowing the system. He just wanted them to see that in the long run, the system had no power over them. Why would he need or want to be a king? In our uncertain kingdom of truth, we think things are true because we can prove them or make enough noise about them. Things are true because we say so. Things are true because enough people believe it. Things are true because we pass a lie detector test, because we need someone ultimately and finally to possess the truth. And that means that they have it. We prefer to be the ones who hold the truth. But the truth is a lot bigger than we think. There is truth that we hide from the world. There is truth about ourselves we admit only to ourselves. The truth is that Pilate has power, but it is not the same sort of power as Jesus. Jesus is utterly powerless before him, but will ultimately not be subject to his power because there is a transcendent power that raises him beyond death. It is Pilate who is powerless. Oh, he knows expedience. He knows expedience before truth. He knows we are not alone in the universe with only our courage and ingenuity. He knows that most of those who claim to know the truth have voices that sound like empty pails clanging down basement stairs. Jesus does not answer the question. He just stands there. Stands there. In the midst of this carefully maintained world of illusion that belongs to those who rule. It is an illusory kingdom. Jesus is more than an anti-monarchist. He is an anti-systemist if the system exploits and dehumanizes people. If we are going to follow him, we learn to embody the truth that confronts systems. We find the right place and we plant our feet firmly and sometimes stand silent. We stand between the exploiters and the exploited. We invite leaders and corporations and anyone or any group who make less of creation with their systems to tell us the truth. Why are you doing what you're doing? Do not give us the manufactured, influencer, confusing by sheer weight of words truth. Give us the truth. Be accountable. The truth. Pilate's expedience. Jesus' truth. The worth of all people. The worth of all people. Watching a rather hefty man weigh in at the doctor's office and not knowing that the scale was out of order, A little boy watched with his mother as the indicator stopped at 75 pounds. Wow, he must be hollow. Hollow people don't hear the truth. Hollow people need truth. Hollow people won't hear the truth, but they need to be told anyway. And remember that in Jesus' case, telling the truth can get you killed. What is the truth? What is the absolute, reliable, God-sure certainty about something in an age where we spin things to fit our own desires and opinions and to protect our self-interest? The biblical truth, the biblical witness, writes Verna Dozier, is that we are those people who believe that God will never crush our freedom. The God of the biblical story will never participate in the human arrogance of having it our way and claiming it is for the other's good.
Let all the world in every corner sing, my God and King. The heavens are not too high, His praise may thither fly. Is not too low, His praises there may grow. Let all the world in every corner sing, my God and King. Let all the world in every corner sing, my God and King. The church with psalms must shout, no door can keep them out. But above all, the heart must bear the longest part. Let all the world in every corner sing. My God and King. My God and King, let all the world in every corner sing, my God and King.
Let me tell you about another truth. Occasionally, I have the privilege of wandering into the building on a Tuesday morning and seeing what I would humbly describe as a miracle. I get to go downstairs and I see a bunch of you serving food, listening to people's stories, making them feel welcome, and handing them the biggest plate of dignity I've ever seen. Because you understand the truth of Jesus saying that we all are of inestimable worth. So, I get to see, and we'll give you some names in a few minutes, but I get to see people sitting across a table or a desk from someone who's not having a good life and is probably being shunned or not treated well by the others around them on a regular basis. But they tell their stories and they get listened to. Somebody puts a plate of food in front of them. No charge. They just get welcomed into the building and welcomed for who they are. One of the things that our Exploring Belonging group conjured up a little earlier this year was that we wanted to honor the volunteers who did all sorts of different things around here. And so last month we talked about those who are part of the pastoral care team, for whom we all are grateful. And today we want to honor, in the light of the Christ candle, the people who do walk-in support. And so I don't know if Rob or Doug want to say anything right now.
Rob is going to say something brief and introduce somebody else.
Okay, Rob, come on up, please. Man, we're making you work 2 weeks in a row, sorry.
Good morning. Thank you for those kind words, Cam, about walk-in support. And I'd like to ask Jim Pollock if he would come forward. And is Jim here? Oh, there he is. Good. And he's going to talk about his experience as a volunteer with walk-in support. Morning, Jim.
Morning, Rob. Thanks. Good morning, everybody. Just this past Sunday, I was speaking with a woman at coffee time who made the point that she was drawn to come to Fairlawn Avenue United because of the good work we do in the community. Indeed, Embrace Action is one of the cornerstones of our ministry. We reach out in many ways, and I venture to say that in every instance, the beauty of the exchange that is undertaken is deeply felt. For me, walk-in support offers that valuable exchange. We serve some food to 50-plus guests, and most poignantly for me, we get to know them a little. Their circumstance, their concerns and health challenges, their genuine gratitude for the solace and community that hour and a half provides. A gratitude registered on their faces and resounding in a thank you. We greet basically the same people every first Tuesday of the month, and boy, do we get to know them. There's a guy who has a fire hose of corny puns. Another fellow who comes into the room with a hail and hearty greeting for all. A woman who is quiet-spoken and has a soft, regal demeanor. Many souls, many backgrounds. Our 16 volunteers meet at 8 in the morning to set the tables and prep the food. Everyone settles into a role. I like cutting the cheese. But darn it all, John Kimmel does too. So we see who gets there first to claim superiority. Reverend Rob leads us in prayer before the doors are opened, and he blesses our guests with a grace. Key to the experience of our guests' enjoy is having a one-on-one conversation, a private conversation with one of our volunteers. That period of touching base with them is taken on by 2 or 3 of us. I happen to have done it 3 times and have found it very revealing. Most have much to say about their circumstance, and all, save a few, want a prayer. Walk-in support has proven to be, for me, a very rewarding experience. The camaraderie during prep and cleanup, the time with our guests, the food and the stories that are shared, it's sustenance for body and soul. Our group, and most important, our guests, thank Fairlawn for your generosity in keeping this cherished work going. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. I think that gets a bit of the flavor of what we're doing. Yeah. I'm very thankful for all the volunteers who have become involved in walk-in support. And you may know we give them, each of our guests, a $15 gift card. And speaking of gift cards, Alan Hucks has an order form, so if you'd like a gift card, it won't be free, but you can sign up and put in your order for Christmas. But now I'd like to read out the names of the people who have been volunteering, and as I read your name, would you come forward and form a sort of a semicircle here. Gordon and Elaine Pitts are away, so they can't be here. Sue Metcalf. Lori Proctor. Jim Pollock, who just spoke. June Rowe. Jennifer Redwood, Kathy Salisbury, Sandy McKinstry, I haven't seen her here, and Hal, Janie Mills and Paul Mills, I think they're away, Barb Springay, John Kimmel, Joan Salvatore. Joan isn't a member of our congregation, but she volunteers. Kathy McGladry. And the fellow who actually organizes and does the hard work, or at least some of it, is Doug Knights.
These folks honor you by what they represent to the people in our community. And they take the light of the Christ candle that we have lit here. They not only take it downstairs on those Tuesday mornings, they take it with them out into the community and do so much. And so, as we did last month, this month we want to give them a small Fairlawn candle to acknowledge how they take the light of Christ out into the community. So would you once again please thank them while I hand them some candles? Thank you so much. very welcome. Thank you. Thank you, John. Some of them are white and some of them are red. If you don't like your color, just swap with each other. If you will permit me just for a moment, I'd like to give a prayer of thanksgiving for these folks. For the way these, our friends, our sisters, our brothers, stand with Christ and radiate with his light and give to others the gift of dignity. We give you thanks. We give you thanks for the time and the energy and the compassion of their souls. And we give you thanks that we get to say that they're with us. Amen. Thank you so much. And perhaps as they're walking by you, you might want to say thank you so much and peace to you. Or maybe you just want to say peace to the folks around you because, every once in a while it's nice to have somebody look us in the eye and say, peace to you. You all offer so much to so many people in so many different ways. Thank you. And thank you for what you bring this morning as a symbol of what you offer to each other and as we're able to gather that offering together and celebrate who we are as the household of freedom. We call you King, Jesus, but you're not like any king we've ever heard of. You don't flaunt your power, waving your hand dismissively to change the lives of your subjects. You don't hoard your wealth and tax your people just to grow more comfortable in your isolated palace. You don't exploit the weak and unconnected or use the ambition of ladder climbers to further your control. No. You are the king who lays down his crown to walk among us as one of us. You are the king who lays down his life to bring abundant eternal life to all who seek it. You are the king who draws the weak, the rejected, the poor, the child, into the center of the conversation and into the heart of where real power lies. You, Jesus, are the unking, the king whose kingdom redefines everything we know and will continue to do so for eternity. Help us to see you as you walk among us. Thank you for watching. If you appreciate this content, please share it with your friends. Consider giving us a like, subscribing, and hitting the notification icon as it really helps our channel. And as always, be good to you.